Hello and welcome everybody joining today. Thank you very much for tuning in for today's debate. I can see the numbers going up and up as we go live. Thank you for joining us on this crisp Friday lunchtime lockdown debate. My name is Joe and I'm going to be taking you through proceedings today for our debate in partnership with Create Not Hate on the topic, this house believes you can't teach creativity. I'll just give it a few moments as people start to join. We're really delighted to have over 100 people signed up to tune in today from all over the world. So whether you're part of the DebateMate community, whether you're a school student or a regular attender of one of our debates, or if this is the first time you've ever tuned into a DebateMate event, we welcome you. You're in for a treat over the next hour. We've got a really exciting group of people here to speak and debate on the topic that is a really interesting one. This house believes that you can't teach creativity. We've got those numbers are going way up now. We've got people from all over. I can see numbers almost at 100 already. Fantastic. Thank you so much to all of you for carving out 1 hour today to listen to this debate, hopefully over your lunch. I hope you're having a great week. I hope you've had a lovely day and you're here for our debate on the topic, this house believes you can't teach creativity. Okay, let's get started. So as I said, my name is Joe. I'm going to be overseeing things today, talking you through the debate as we go on. But before I go through the rules, I'm going to introduce DebateMate. I'm then going to introduce Create Not Hate. And then we're going to tell you how it is going to work today. So DebateMate, those of you that don't know, DebateMate is an educational organization has been going for around 12 years now. And what we do is we deliver debate training, communication and leadership training to young people and professionals all over the world. Initially, we started out as empowering young people growing up in deprived communities around the UK with the key core skill set taught through debating of critical thinking, creative thinking, the power of using your voice to influence and persuade people, and creating confident young people all over the country. Now, not only do we do that with 6,000 young people every single week, but also we work with top FTSE 100 companies to do the same program to teach the same set of skills in professionals right up to the C-suite boardroom. We're really delighted to be here today. And since lockdown, which feels like it's been going on for ages now, we've been running these virtual showcase debates as a way of bringing people together from different industries, from different communities, to have debates in a really controlled, intelligent, engaging, and entertaining way. And we're delighted that you can join us here today. Now, we are really excited to be delivering this event in partnership with an organization that we're very fond of called Create Not Hate. And Create Not Hate was first launched in 2007 with the aim of unlocking potential avenues that exist within creative industries for young people from underrepresented backgrounds. It's a fantastic organization set up and founded by Trevor Robinson, who we're delighted to have on the call today. Trevor set up the Create Not Hate around 10 years ago, but in the wake of George Floyd's murder and the resurgence of Black Lives Matter movement, Trevor decided to revive Create Not Hate in 2020. And the program sees young participants recruited through a network of partners, some of them like DebateMate, attend workshops with Trevor and his colleagues from Create Not Hate. Trevor, you're here with us today. Do you have anything you would like to say introducing Create Not Hate to the audience?
Well, you kind of gave it a good shout there. Good shout. Yeah. Good. It was something that obviously started off on a personal level for me. I'm not sure if, because it's very much a part of my debating topic. So I think I'll hold off on explaining any more about it.
Perfect. Nice. Leave it for the audience to come. Brilliant. Yeah. Okay, so that's DebateMate. That's Create Not Hate. But we've really enjoyed the partnership we've had with Create Not Hate so far, and we're really excited to bring this debate to you today. I'm going to talk you through the rules for today's debate. Before I do that, I would like to welcome all of today's debaters to turn on their cameras and join the panel now. So wherever you are, please give a big round of applause for today's debaters. Give them a big round of applause. Woo, woo. Welcome, everybody. Welcome today's debaters, a fantastic group of speakers which I will be introducing later. Okay, so today's debate. Now, some of you might be new to this. This is how it's going to work. Today we'll be debating a topic or a motion, and that topic is this house believes you can't teach creativity. And that's how we introduce all of our topics. We say this house would. We have one side on the agree side or the proposition, and we have one side on the disagree side, the opposition. We're going to start with the proposition, who will make a speech of around 3 to 5 minutes. We'll then go over to the opposition, back to the proposition, back to the opposition. And then we'll go to the audience for a floor debate, which will be chaired by my colleague, Ronke. Ronke, if you would like to turn your camera on now and tell the audience what's going to be happening in the floor debate.
So the floor debate is maybe the most exciting part of the debate. You guys are going to get to hear the opinions of all our lovely panelists. I recommend getting a pen and paper and maybe taking some notes, and you guys can ask a question, you can make a statement, or just give a general comment in regards to the debate, and our summary speakers are going to respond to those questions from you guys in the audience. So you guys are participants just as much as everyone else, so make sure you're listening and taking notes.
Fantastic, thank you, Ronke. And you can ask those questions by using the Q&A function in the bottom of the Zoom panel. You should be able to see it there. Excuse me. You can also use the chat if you want to ask a question, but ideally, please use the Q&A, and we'll have our moderators there going through the questions and picking those that will be read out by Ronke when it gets to the floor debate. Okay, so one more thing that I will be saying is that during the speeches, the other side are able to interrupt, and they're able to interrupt with something called a point of information. Now, a point of information is a short 10-second interruption that you might hear, you might not hear, and it's a great and lively part of the debate. Now, just before we get started, I'm going to launch a poll. So this poll is going to come up on your screen now, and this has the topic on the screen. This house believes that creativity can't be taught. Now, please vote now whether you agree with this topic or disagree with this topic, and we will see what kind of job the audience have and the debaters have as to whether they're going to got the audience on side or they've got some persuading to do. It's looking quite balanced at the moment, I have to say. At the moment, we've got 15% of the votes for the agree side. Oh, it's getting a little bit more unbalanced. 69% with the undecided, and 70% with disagree and 16% with undecided. So let me just take a look at that. I'll end that and share the results. Okay, so we have 15% agree, 70%, 69% disagree, and 18% are undecided, which means the team in proposition have got a bit more work to do today, but I think you're gonna find their speeches quite persuasive as well. Let's see. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to introduce the first speaker on side proposition. This is Melody. Melody is an amazing speaker. She's a creator. She's an innovator. She's head of film at Engine, the amazing agency. She also went to Sydenham School for Girls, which actually did the DebateMate program and still do the DebateMate program. So if there are any students from Sydenham out there listening, Melody is one of your own. I'm now going to ask you all to give a big virtual round of applause to Melody. Woo!
Thanks for that, Joe. Thanks for having me. I don't know about the amazing speaker thing, but I'm going to give it a go today. So shall I just go for it, Joe? All right, so can creativity be taught? I'm going to say no. Creativity is innate, it's inherent. Some are going to say today that everyone is born creative, and that as we develop, it's very possible that we unlearn those skills. And I suspect that we're going to have a debate about the nature versus nurture aspect here. So that's all good. However, I believe that it is something that you have to have naturally. I think it's a natural flair. You either have it or you don't. It shows up in all areas of life. You could be an accountant, a builder, a teacher, filmmaker, illustrator, and be naturally creative in all of those things and how you do those things. You can teach the skills to do any of those jobs or those skills, and you can create those skills. The student can master them and perform them and execute them efficiently and well. And you could do that job year in and year out. You could provide a service, you can function, you've got skills. But all of those things can be done without a creative flair. That would be my position. And for me, creative flair is about an eye for detail, colour, beauty, symmetry. That is something you have naturally, and I don't believe you can be taught that, sadly.
Point of information.
I'm not going to take that right now, if that's all right. I can do that, can I? Sorry, Manhao. I just want to finish it. It's not a subject, so it can't be taught. That's my position. So keeping it a little bit closer to home, I'm a producer, surprise, surprise. So to just bring it round to kind of what I do and what I know, I would say that producers make things happen. They do it for themselves, they do it for directors, creatives, animators, and they can get everyone from start to finish. They can get the project over the line, they can get it delivered. You can be taught to follow the necessary steps in that process to execute something and deliver it. That's a fact. But a creative producer with real creativity, with flair, with an eye for what is truly excellent, brings way more than that. They help to seek out a way to find friction, innovation. They push the boundaries. They ask the questions to expand the view of those creating. That's why I believe that great talent doesn't only apply to the main artist. I'm probably a little bit biased, obviously, because I'm a producer and I consider myself to be a creative producer. But I would say that real creativity will elevate every aspect of what you do. And then something becomes truly excellent, and then it becomes truly creative. So in summary, I would say that you can acquire skills through teaching and repetition, but that's not the same as true creativity. I'll take any point of interruption or questions now, if that's all right.
Point of information.
Yes.
Early in your speech, you had said that people are born with creativity, but if people are born with creativity, they need to be taught and understand how to use creativity within themselves.
Do I respond to that? What I actually said is that some will argue, or some will say today, that you're born with creativity, and I'm going to say that's not the case. Oh, that is the case. Sorry. Some will say that you're born. Sorry. Some will say that you're born. Shut up, Trevor. Some will say that you're born with it and then you unlearn it if it's not nurtured or honed, which I think is probably going to be very, very well argued shortly. But I would say that you have to have it naturally, and that you could be taught skills, but not true creativity. Is that okay,
Thank you
Manal?
very much, Mehdi. Let's give Mehdi a round of applause, everyone. Fantastic opening speech, Mehdi. You did it, and just as we knew, it was fantastic. And how great point of information there. Thank you very much for livening up that debate. Okay,
thanks, Manal.
You've heard the first speaker on side proposition, and you've got a flavor of how this debate is going to work. You've seen that you're going to have one side arguing in favor of creativity not being able to be taught, and another side saying that creativity can be taught. Out of all of these debates, we've split this topic right down the middle, and we're asking our speakers to explore the issues on either side. And it is worth me saying now that these speakers aren't necessarily arguing for what they believe in. We've asked them to go on these sides. It's an intellectual exercise where we're asking experts to explore these topics in their own way, based on their own experience. And hopefully at the end, we'll have the time to speak to people without these sides on to be able to talk about their true opinions. Okay, next up, I'm going to go crossover to the opposition. We've already heard from him briefly, and this is Trevor Robinson, OBE, the founder of Create Not Hate and the executive creative director of Quiet Storm. Trevor has been behind some of the ads that became really, really iconic for many of you, including You've Been Tangoed, that was Trev, the Haribo adverts, that was Trev, and we're delighted to have him here today debating for us on the side that creativity can be taught. Give a big round of applause, please, for Trevor Robinson.
Hi there. I'm really rubbish at talking out loud. I normally get somebody else to do it in my company. That was the ability of being a dyslexic. You find clever ways to make other people do all the hard stuff that I hate doing. Anyway, one of the key things that was just talked about there is I think it was Picasso that says we're all born to be creative, but it's all been educated out of us. I come from a fairly big family, 4 boys, 1 girl, and I believe all of us were creative. In fact, I got my first kind of desires to be creative because of my dad, who could draw, could do anything really. He was, again, illiterate, but he learned, taught himself how to do a lot of stuff. He used to work on a building site, and he ran the team in the end. And my brothers could also draw, my sister, we could all do it just easily. And at school, it was just something that I just thought, it was something that I used to love comics. I used to love coming up with ideas for comics. But what was quite interesting looking at my family is that my brothers kind of threw it away as something and was educated out of them, really was told that this, you can't have a career being an artist. You're going to be on a building site with your dad, or you're going to be, as in my brother kind of chose some rather dodgy paths in terms of what he did as a career. And my sister went more in line of, bringing up her kids and living her life through her kids. And I always felt my life is going to be something to do with creativity, even though I didn't even know that term as such. And one of the things that I was lucky enough is to stumble into advertising, really, because I started off wanting to be an animator or anything or designer I was going for, and I ended up getting a job in advertising. And then I realized I was really quite addicted to it, and I really enjoyed it. And I managed to have a long career, but something that really struck me, and it was something that I felt guilty about and I really wanted to address, is I knew there was a lot of kids that I grew up with was incredibly creative, incredibly smart, and their ingenuity and the way they used to be, I thought was a loss for the advertising industry. So that's when 13 years ago, when I decided to start off Create Not Hate, I really started off with that, not the subject matter which we did start off with, which was knife and gun crime. I started off with just really trying to get these talented people aware of the advertising industry, and the advertising industry aware of them. These aren't Oxford grads. These are just normal kids that none of them were educated how to be designers or thinkers, as it were, in terms of creativity. None of them, but yet they were able to come up with some fantastic ideas, which were in some ways better than the industries who were set the same briefs of how to change knife crime, how to stop and prevent these horrible atrocities. One of the kids from my old school is where I went to set the lesson first, set the Create Not Hate up first. They had been aware of these kids being murdered, and so we used that subject matter as a theme in order for them to come up with ideas. And it was staggering the amount of ideas. And recently we brought it up and brought it back, really because of the Black Lives Matters this year and the death of George Floyd, or the murder, I should say, of George Floyd, which was, for me, made me incredibly angry. But my way of dealing with it was trying to bring back Create Not Hate, and the original way I tried to do it was not sustainable, because I decided to do it myself. This time around, I've been a little bit more clever, and I've asked the aid of people like Melanie, or lots of people to help me make it something that's going to be sustainable. And the subject matter was, like I said, was racism, and these kids killed it. They killed it with the ideas. We still haven't made the amount of ideas that came around, let's face it, with a couple of afternoons of work. And these kids were looking around going, wow, we've come up with all of this. And in the same way, the creative directors that were in a room, who were a little bit nervous at first, standing around the outside of the room, but eventually, by the end of the day, they were also astounded by the ideas and passion that was coming out. And I believe that creativity is dormant in all of us. It's something that's been submerged, something that's we've been told that we can't do. Also, we've been told you've been ridiculed if you make mistakes. And I guess that's why academics win out, because you've got a blueprint there. It's either right or wrong. Creativity is a lot more ambiguous than that. Anyway, that's my argument.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead, Melody.
So Trevor, the point you just made there was that those kids, they hadn't been taught, but they naturally, you know, in an afternoon, they were writing better ideas than some professionals working in advertising.
Correct.
So would you not argue, or would you not support my argument, that is natural creativity, not taught?
No. When you look at
inherent,
you got to look at these kids. They're just like, they were like, some of them were footballers that took some time off to come in, see if they do it. Some of them were ex-offenders. Some of them were just from a social club. These aren't educated. They're not educated in any shape or form about creativity, but yet it was obvious that there's creativity in the whole room.
Right, and they didn't need to be taught it because it does. Yeah,
it's in all of us, but we're told we're not creative. Like these kids are told, you should be footballers. You've got a skill for football. You've got a talent. You've got all this. Creativity is a lot easier, I think, than it is to get up and be a mathematician. I think it's something that we all have. We all play. We all use our sense of imagination, and that is the definition of creativity. Is what.
Right. So there's creativity in football. There's creativity applied to anything you do. Therefore, you don't have to teach it, do you? So
well, yes, you do. I think in all skills, and there's a part of your brain in all of our skills, in all of our headsets that that you could get better. So people deem me as a good creative, but I've spent my life doing it, and I've spent my life, working that muscle. I think, unfortunately, in our society, we praise and we put on a pedestal academics. We put on a pedestal, and unfortunately, history, everything is written by academics. And so therefore, it's the world's unbalanced. And right now, the thing that is most prized is creativity. Just look at all the games, all the different things. Mankind's getting further and further away from relying on doing anything in terms of having to go into a field or go down a coal mine, or all those things are going to be a thing of the past, and we're going to be left with creativity, entertaining ourselves through what we can share through our ideas.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Give Trevor a round of applause. What a speech there, and a fantastic question from Melody there to get into the real crux of this debate about the very fine line between creativity being an inherent skill and natural ability, and whether it's something that can be nurtured and taught. Thank you very much to both of you for those opening two speeches and those excellent arguments. I'm going to remind the audience to be using the Q&A function at the bottom. If you'd like to ask a question, please put it in the Q&A, and Ronke is going to be reading those out after we've heard from Cephas and then from Minhal. So thank you so much to those first speakers on each side. I'm now going to come to our next speaker, which is Cephas Williams. We're delighted to have him here with us today. Cephas is the founder of the 56 Black Men campaign. He's also the founder of the British Black Network. He's an amazing creative. Check him out on LinkedIn. He's got such amazing stuff on there. Give it up, please, for Cephas Williams. Woo!
What's popping? Firstly, I've been back to back today, so I didn't actually get to meet everybody. So hello everyone in the room. Melody, ain't seen you in a minute. You look well. Blessings. Trevor, saw you a couple weeks back. Nice to kind of be with everyone else that I've not met yet. So it was an interesting one for me, because I don't, like I'm someone who I feel like there is no right or wrong. There's only justified opinions. But we're gonna give it a go, and I do feel like with the side I'm on, I lean more towards this side than I do the other side naturally anyway. So I've written my notes down just to make sure I speak a bit more clearly. And have you got a time limit on this, just so I can keep?
You've got up to 5 minutes, Cephas.
Okay, cool. All right. And then people can interrupt to do whatever else and all the rest. All right, cool. So, no, I don't believe creativity can be taught. I believe everyone is born creative. And it's interesting because I think Melody mentioned everyone's born creative. Trevor mentioned everyone's born creative. Melody had a different spin on it. Trevor had a interestingly different spin. So my spin is again about looking at the words we're talking about. So creativity and teaching. And I guess I pose the question of how can you teach something you never had to learn? So I've got a couple of notes, and I'm gonna try to go through them in a way that makes sense. So how can you teach something that you never had to learn? I think creativity is in everybody and is unique to everybody. And if you look at the word, I guess, creativity, deriving from the word create, I feel everybody, and this is new to me, I welcomed my first son into the world, Zion, last year. So he's 8 months now. And I'm watching this kid, right? And in him is everything creative. You put this kid down, he wants to explore, he wants to touch, he wants to do stuff. Do you know what I mean? From a youth. And, you know, I think the issue we have as people is our understanding of the difference between what it means to teach and what it means to be creative, or what it means to create. And actually the power of creativity not having rules, and actually the notion of teaching being very rule-based. And so I said in my notes, there are no rules with creativity, but there are rules of teaching. And the first rule of teaching is that the teacher knows more than the student as to why there is that teaching piece in the first place. At this point, I kind of say, well, if creativity is unique to every individual, and if creativity is in everybody when they're born, then how can you teach someone something that you will never have because you will never live life in their shoes? So we can go into neurodiversity. We can go into, someone might say, but everyone can't create. What about people that, you know, perhaps are handicapped and they don't have like an arm or whatever it is, they can't create, but they can. And there's various ways to create. And you've got various stories of people with no arms that can paint with their feet, people that, you know, triple, quadruple amputees that, you know, are creative in other ways with their speaking, you know. And madly enough, even someone like Helen Keller, who is a rare, you know, situation in that she was blind, she was, you know, deaf, she couldn't speak. Her story, in a very weird way, is a very creative manifestation to the world, and has inspired creativity and has inspired the world in a way perhaps that we can't necessarily quantify. So again, like, I don't believe creativity can be taught because I think it's unique to everybody. I think because it's unique to everybody, there is no formula, there is no one way to do it. And there's a couple other pieces that I've written down that I want to express. I think you can channel creativity. I think you can nurture creativity. So again, it's about the wording, but I don't think you can teach, because teaching implies there is some type of knowledge that you've acquired that you are now giving back. I think you can teach a talent. I think you can teach a skill, but the talent and the skill is the manifestation of what was already innate, being the creativity. And so, did someone interrupt?
Yep.
Can I pass on that interruption?
Yeah.
All right, pass on that because I just want to land on my situation. I've got a couple notes left. So I say, it's true to say, and this is a quote I come up with a while back, but it's true to say that true ideation is information with no rules. And if that's true to say, then it's also true to say that the product of creativity is ideation channeled through talent. So the product of creativity is ideation channeled through talent. But one of the biggest issues I feel we face is we try to put rules around ideation and rules around creativity. If you're going to do a brainstorm, stick all your stuff on the wall. Or perhaps someone else's creative ability is to put everything on the floor and to mix and match stuff. And so that creativity and ideation and at its raw nature is seen in children. We tell children, no, don't go there, don't do that, because of this idea of belief and understanding. And I landed this. I've got this other concept that I came up with many years ago when I, you know, poetically, weirdly was going through depression. And I'll end here. And it says your belief is subject to your understanding. So the older you get, the more you understand, the less you believe. The younger you are, the less you understand, the more you believe. And so this constant battle between don't do that, that's dangerous, or don't do this, because we've got this understanding that comes through information, and your information informs your understanding, and your understanding informs your belief, and your beliefs inform your actions. And so you can't act upon what you don't believe is possible. You can't believe something is possible if you don't understand it, and you can't understand it if you're not informed. Becomes this taught idea of how creativity is almost, you know, stripped away from us. So again, I look at my son Zion and I say he's humanity unrefined, and I talk about that in Letter to Zion. And we kind of, at its purest form, we make it impure, and we start to say, so long and short, getting back to the whole thing without going into fucking, you know, too much deepness, you can't teach creativity. I think it's unique to every individual, and I believe that we have to really look at the wordings there, and I think in everybody is the ability to create something, and if in everybody is the ability to create and explore, then in everybody is the ability to be creative. That is my rebuttal. I hope it made sense.
Thank you very much.
I just want to ask, can we swear? Because I'm a lot better if I can swear.
No, apologies to anyone if offended by that swear word at the end there, but hopefully it didn't take away from what was an incredible speech there, Cephas. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, mate.
For that,
it's completely wrong, but brilliant.
That was an amazing speech and a really, really nice extension of the discussions that we heard so far from the opening two speakers. Thank you very much, Cephas. Next up, we're going to be hearing from Minhal. Minhal is a student from Elmhurst Primary School. She is in year 6. She's been doing DebateMate for a number of years. We're very excited and grateful for carving out some time in her busy school day to speak in today's debate. She's going to be arguing in favor of the idea that you can teach creativity. Minhal, you're a star. Let's give her a big round of applause. Over to you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and of course our honorable judge. My name is Minhal, and I am the second speaker of the opposition. Before I begin my speech, I'd like to say that I wholeheartedly and utterly disagree with the motion that this House believes that creativity can't be taught. Before I begin my speech, I'd like to rebut the previous speaker. The previous speaker had said it is unique, that creativity is unique to everybody, but you can still learn it because all learning is creativity. So moving on to my point. My point is all learning is learning creativity. All learning is creativity because when we are learning something, we are creating something new, such as an idea. Creativity is found in everything. Everything we can learn is seen as creativity. So the proposition saying that we cannot learn creativity is just saying that we cannot learn anything new. If we look at the subjects we learn in school, creativity is found in all of them. In English, you have to be creative by writing stories and writing different speeches, different types of writing, and this involves creativity and it can be taught. In math, you solve problems and spot patterns. You are creative because you are thinking about the differences between two numbers, and this can be taught. In science, you are using your understanding of the world around us and exploring new forces, and this can be taught. Art is understanding the concept of expressing yourself by making new sculptures, and this is creative because this involves creativity because you are expressing yourself, and this can be taught. So
on that point,
accepted.
I went to loads and loads of art lessons, but still I just couldn't really draw properly. You can be in the lesson, can't you? But does that mean you always can learn that creativity for that subject?
Can I answer that? I think the expression that you can't draw, that's wrong. That's you draw in terms of who says that's a good drawing or who says that's a bad drawing. If you look at Picasso's early work and you look at his later work, it was more abstract. Looked like to the untrained eye, you can easily argue saying that's not drawing at all. Drawing's about somebody sat in front of me and he looks just like them. No, what we're talking about is creativity, not a craft, not a skill. Sorry.
Can I, just in addition to that, sorry, Minhal, but Trevor, your argument is that education or teaching, which is the thrust of Minhal's main point, crushes that natural, innate creativity, and because it applies rules, therefore, fundamentally, teaching, you cannot teach creativity because the process of teaching crushes it. Therefore,
I'm not saying you can't teach.
The argument is.
I think.
Okay, guys. I'm just going to have to move on there just for the sake of time. We're going to come back to this after this discussion. Minhao, if you just want to close off your speech.
Sorry, Minhao.
And we'll move over to the floor debate.
Okay. So my evidence for this is I'm going to use myself as an example. In debating, you express yourself by thinking of new points, and this is creativity, and I was taught this. And you answer POIs by engaging in other people's views, and you are taught this. And this all involves creativity, because you're thinking with what you know. Thank you for listening, and I urge you to vote for the opposition, I mean.
Give a round of applause
for the proposition.
Thank you very much. Amazing speech. Fantastic debate from everyone involved there. Thank you so much for your contributions so far. This debate, as I knew, was going to be very, very interesting and also very, very lively. We've now got an opportunity to hear some questions from the floor. So I'm going to pass over to my colleague Ronke now. Ronke is an executive program director at DebateMate, but also she's a creative herself. She was part of the team that set up Platform London, which is a youth creative agency powered by young people and led by industry professionals. And they're the team behind the Soho Arts and Culture Festival in Soho Music Month. That's Ronke, and I'm now going to ask her to read out some of the questions from the floor. And these questions will be answered by the summary speakers. So Jane and Ife will be answering these questions in their speech. Okay, Ronke, let's see how many you can get through in a few minutes.
Fabulous. So the audience have definitely been riled up by this debate. And the first question for both sides, someone has asked for you guys to define what is creativity. So that's a question for you guys in the summary. We have a question for proposition. If you have any faith in the ability of people to improve themselves, then surely we must accept that they can learn to be more creative. And moving on now to a question for the opposition side. Would the team arguing that creativity can be taught agree that genius probably can't be taught? And we have another question for the proposition side. This one is from John. And John says, can the proposition really tell us they've genuinely met a child with no creativity, no imagination, no inventiveness, or any original ideas? And he asks you guys to think about children who create Lego and do drawings in the classroom at school. This is a question for both sides of the team, and that is, does creativity require curiosity? And if so, can curiosity be taught? And one more question for the proposition side. If curiosity cannot be taught, why do so many musicians and creatives come from the same community in school? For example, I know Nas came from a community in New York where hundreds of amazing artists came from. This question was geared towards Trevor, so the proposition side can answer. You may be able to encourage creative thinking and teach the creative steps and processes, but do you agree that some people are more naturally creative than others? Or do you believe that everyone could be taught on the same creative level? And we'll get a question for both sides. Where do you think a lack of resources fits into this debate? Maybe it's a lack of resources that people cannot express their creativity, as opposed to not being a trait that people have. And I'm going to see if I can find one more question for the opposition. Okay, let's go for Jess's question. You can learn from experiencing creativity, going to exhibitions, listening to music, experiencing a good film, which then supports the development of your own creativity. Don't the debaters agree? Okay.
Thank you very much, Ronke, there for those questions. And thank you, everyone from the audience. I'm just looking at some of the names there. We've got mentors in the DebateMate program. We've got former students from the DebateMate program. And we've got loads of new friends who are here to join us. I'm just taking a quick look at the chat as well. We've got people saying Minhao for Prime Minister. We've got people saying Cephas for Prime Minister and Trevor for Minister for Culture and Art. We've got lots of excellent speeches, excellent points being made from the chat. I've got a couple of questions that we're going to actually hear the audio for here. We're going to go first to Emmanuel. Emmanuel is a current DebateMate student and also was a participant in the Create Not Hate program over the summer, worked closely with Trevor and his team on the amazing campaign that they put together, in particular the 2 videos. You'll get a link for that after this debate. Please do check it out. And that was the work of Emmanuel and Trevor and others. Emmanuel, have you got a question for this debate? Over to you.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for that opening. Yeah, hi guys. My name is Emmanuel. I have a question, and it's kind of more of a statement that I think you guys should think about, which was kind of touched upon when Trevor was interrupting and not observing debate etiquette. But essentially, this movie Ratatouille, yeah, because that's my favorite movie, innit? There's a phrase called that the critic always repeats, which is not everyone. Well, no, Gusteau, which is the chef, repeats. He says anyone can cook, and then all through the movie, it's perceived as that means that anyone can be the best chef. But by the end of the movie, they realize that actually anyone can just try. It's really just about them expressing themselves. So I wanted to ask each side, where does that fit into the argument? Is creativity really being the best, like people said about being Picasso and, doing the finest arts and producing the best music? Or is it just you being yourself? Can anyone just be themselves? Or are you guys saying that that's not really what creativity is about? I was just wondering where that would fit into you guys' argument. Thanks for listening. Yeah, check out the videos.
Very much, Emmanuel. Give him a round of applause. Great to see him. Great question, as always. And you see a little ripple of reaction from some of the panelists there. When we were chatting with Cephas yesterday ahead of this call, he mentioned the same quote. So interesting there. That's resonated with a few people who knew the cultural significance of Ratatouille. I didn't, but it's turning up everywhere. Okay, and next up, I would like to welcome someone else to the panel. We're delighted to invite DebateMate CEO and founder Margaret McCabe up to the panel, and she will be asking a question from the floor. So, Georgia, I think you're just going to be arranging for Margaret to join, and Margaret's going to be asking us a question. Margaret, over to you. If you want to take yourself off mute. Oh, we lost Margaret there. I can just see that she has dropped off from the panel. Let's just, and she's back. Okay, yeah, Margaret, I'm going to welcome you to take yourself
Hi.
off. Hey, Margaret.
Can you hear me? Hi, everyone.
Hi.
It's fantastic. Well done. Aren't we all creative now? We have to be creatives. I mean, there's no jobs in the world really up till now that the job description as being a creative, except in the media and the ad industry. When I went to school and Trevor went to school and a lot of others went to school, it was all about academics. You had to be a doctor or a lawyer. But now it's all about ideas and thinking and being creative. And if you're, for example, can a fantastic mathematician, most of whom are considered to be uncreative, can they create amazing apps and word, coding for programming? Yeah, of course they can. We all have to be creative now. So my controversial contribution to this debate isn't just creativity, just our ability to problem solve, thinking outside our own box. Some are better at it than others. Creativity isn't just new ideas, and you can teach it. You don't have to be a good painter to think creatively. Painting is a skill. Creativity is the byproduct of learning the other skills that gives you creative solutions. And those skills are resilience, the ability to think critically, having high confidence and high self-esteem. So what we say at DebateMate, that every individual is unique in their own personal attributes, and everyone can be taught to be creative through teaching the skills that we teach. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Margaret. Give a big round of applause to Margaret. Thank you very much for that contribution and for everything. We couldn't be here today if it wasn't for Margaret and the DebateMate program. Okay, that's the end of the floor debate. Thank you very much to everyone who asked a question. Thank you, everyone who contributed from the floor. Thank you, Ronke, for chairing that discussion. We're now coming to the summary speakers. We're going to hear first from Jane, and then we're going to hear from Ife, who will be summarizing their case on their side, as well as addressing some of the questions from the floor. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next next speaker. This is Jane. Jane is an educator. She is an innovator. She is a debater. She's currently the head of English and media at Eltham Hill College in Southeast London. She's formerly taught all over London. She's part of the team at Teach First, who educate teachers in how to be even better teachers. She's a former Oxford Union debater and all-round great person. Give it up for Jane Cahill.
Thanks, Joe. It's really great to be here. And I have to say, this is one of the more philosophical debates I've been in. I quite like that. There's been a bit of a kind of, we're all just going to, a bit less structure than normal. I think it's really benefited from that. So thanks for all the contributions so far. And as Joe mentioned, you know, I teach in Eltham, and you know, we live with the legacy of the murder of Stephen Lawrence, and kind of we reflect on a lot of that kind of in our teaching practice. I have to say I passionately agree with a lot of the contributions that, you know, the education system, we can really quickly come to conclusions about who is creative and who isn't. I think one thing about creativity is that it's really, really dangerous. And that's why it can be quickly crushed when it appears in the wrong places or expressed in the wrong ways. I think Trevor's point, you know, creativity is taught out of us often, rings true to me and from what I've seen in teaching often. But I think that's what happens when we try to teach something or push kind of an unwritten curriculum about what a child's future should be, rather than evidence that creativity can be taught. You know, when you see someone like Lionel Messi or Lucy Bronze taking the ball down the pitch, when you hear, you know, Beverly Knight let rip on a great number, or see, you know, a great piece of work by Steve McQueen, I don't think you can conclude from those great pieces of work that, you know, creativity at that level at least can be taught. And I know that's one of the interesting questions that we've had. At what level are we talking about here? Equally, you know, Trevor's point that my Year 9 artwork, you know, could have been a Picasso from a certain perspective, is an interesting one. But all I need to say is you need to see the artwork that I was producing in Year 9. And the only perspective from which you could think that maybe it was good was by standing very, very far away from it. You know, there is just some, I can't draw. And there's no perspective, I think, that you can see that. And I don't think I could have been taught to draw either. I accept, you know, there's a risk that if you say creativity can't be taught, you might conclude that it's something for an elite few. And I think that's obviously not true. But saying, you know, we can't teach something isn't the same as saying it isn't widespread. And creativity is widespread. And I agree with what Cephas was saying about it being within us. And I see that when, you know, a student hands in a poem or stands to make a speech, we have that spark within us, but it's something that needs to be released. I don't think it's something that can be taught. You know, on this side of the motion, there's kind of Melody's speech explained, you know, we are realists. You know, just because we want something to be true doesn't make it so. Most of the available evidence, you know, shows us that we can build someone's knowledge and we can drill someone in skills, but we can't really teach someone to be creative. And I think if we could, I think we'd be a lot better at it by now, at least. And, you know, a more nuanced answer here is obviously around what is creativity and what does it mean to teach? But from my perspective as a teacher, I can give you opportunities to be creative. I can teach you a process to go through and support you with that, but I can't tell you how to be creative. And just two examples of why I think this is the case. You know, firstly, we can see from, you know, the represented in this debate that creativity is about teamwork. You know, a room full of people who are all the same, you know, aren't going to produce groundbreaking work. And I don't think anyone can coach them through that because they're not bringing something different or new to the table. And where it's not about teamwork, I think creativity is really inextricably linked to your identity and what you have to say and how you want to say it. You know, as so many have pointed out, you know, creativity is about being yourself. And, you know, Ratatouille is a beautiful example of that as a film, I have to say, a cracking example of that. And I can't teach you how to be yourself. I can't teach you how to express that. I can take you through a process. So when you talk to, you know, great coaches of sports people, Stormzy's teachers from Crystal Palace, for example, I don't think any of them would ever say, you know, oh, I taught him how to do that. And I think that's because in that moment and in that statement, you steal something from that person. You know, their achievement is putting themselves out there on that stage and performing. I mean, it's the greatest thing as a teacher to see that and experience someone going out there and nailing it for themselves, for their family, for their community. And I think we wish we could say, oh yeah, I taught them that. But the reality is that we didn't. That's a special moment. That's someone coming to life for themselves. So it's quite bittersweet as a teacher. You want to be able to say, I can teach someone to have that spark. But I think the best thing we can say is that we're there to release it. And for that reason, I'm proud to support this motion and say, I don't think we can teach that creativity.
Thank you very much, Jane. Give a big round of applause for Jane. A fantastic summary speech there at the end of today's debate, bring a really interesting perspective as a teacher. Okay, with the final speaker on today's debate, I'm delighted to introduce Ife. Ife is a former DebateMate student. He did the DebateMate program when he was at school at the Bridge Academy, Hackney. He went on to achieve amazing things in the DebateMate program and indeed went on to win the World Schools Debating Championships a few years ago, making him the best debater, one of the best debaters in the world that year. Since then, his career and his creativity has gone in many, many different ways, including as a world slam, a national slam poetry champion, a published poet, a presenter, a campaigner, a writer, and he's currently just off the back of doing some work with the BBC on a audio project. I'm delighted to welcome the summary speaker, on-side opposition. Put your hands together for Ife Grillo.
Thank you, Joe. Thing is, as a creative, I like to think I'm special. I like to think I have a God-given talent. I can just look at the world differently, that I create color where color doesn't exist, and I'm a creative beacon to the world. You know, the world is full of people thinking the same, and me, I just think differently. But deep down, I know the reason that narrative exists is to gatekeep. It exists to create a section of the world and say who is creative and who isn't. Because as much as we can say, if we can't teach creativity, that's fine because we're all creative. In reality, we know what this really looks like is when we have the idea that we can't teach creativity, we have an idea of who is creative and who isn't, and we say it's the reason you aren't creative is because it's not something that can be taught, it's something that's inside you. I'm here to tell you creativity can be taught, and believing it can be taught is the key to it being taught successfully. So I'm going to ask two questions. What is creativity? Then I'm going to actually look at what does it mean to teach it? Because I don't think anyone's really answered that question, and I think that's what this debate's missing. So what is creativity? We've all said it's about doing things differently, but we're all individuals, and by nature of the fact, that means we always do things differently. So I do think creativity is slightly more than that. Melody said it's kind of something innate in you, and I'm like, okay, I kind of see that. I think it is something that is probably innate in who you are as a person, and it links to your identity. I think it's about innovation. I think it's about problem solving. But I think the key thing is that it's not about creating world-leading pieces of art. Like, I personally hate the film Ratatouille, but I think it's a terrible film. I don't understand why we romanticize rats cooking. That's unsanitary. It's not nice. I don't like it. But some people enjoy it because they have a different brain, and that's part of creativity. But the real question here is, I think what the film teaches us is that when we think of creativity as, are you going to go on to get a #1 rap album? Of course, it becomes impossible to teach. When we recognize that creativity is not about awards, and it's not about fame, and it's not about money, but it's about thinking about how you look at yourself in relation to the world, well, we can definitely teach that. And what does it mean to be taught? Because Jane stood up here and said creativity is about teamwork. And I agree. And we can definitely teach people to work better in a team. We know there are loads of things we can do to make people better communicators, to work better with other individuals. So if Jane says creativity is about teamwork, and we know we can teach people how to be better at teamwork, by nature, we can teach people how to be better at creativity. Jane also says creativity is about being yourself and your identity. And I completely agree with that. And I think that's really important. But we can teach people to feel more confident in themselves, because the key to creativity is ultimately confidence. It's not about the fact, we all know we're all individuals. What makes people creative is the willingness and desire to put the ideas out there, think differently, and articulate that difference. That is an exercise in confidence, and that definitely can be taught. We can teach people to feel more confident in themselves, sharing perspectives. I'm lucky enough as someone who's an educator and worked with kids in debating. I've had kids who for years, they've been told by their teachers they're shy, and they've taken that on as their entire identity. So they've just decided they're a shy person. And for years, their parents, everyone around them has just decided that is innate in them, that they're just someone who is shy. And I've worked with them for a long period, and by the end of that, they're the first to put their hand up in class. The issue there wasn't that they weren't creative. The issue there is that they've internalized a narrative about themselves, and we can teach people to unlearn that narrative. And I think this really links into what does it mean to teach the creativity? Because we get this idea of, no, we can nurture creativity, but we can't teach it. Any good teacher is a nurturer. The idea that teaching is simply reduced down to teaching someone a specific skill is not what anyone does, and I think does a disservice to teachers all over the world. When you teach someone, it's about getting to know them, unlocking their potential, nurturing who they are, helping them, not telling them what it means to be creative, but telling them how do you become the best version of yourself, and that is the way you unlock creativity. So if we can teach someone to unlock the creativity inside them, that is what it means to teach creativity. Because it's not about having a framework for what excellence would look like. So Melody says that it's about having an eye for excellence, but who gets to decide what is and what isn't excellence? And I think that's also part of the problem when we talk about teaching creativity. We have an idea of what makes someone a good or bad creative. And that means that we then have a benchmark to decide whether you have taught it successfully or not. I think to teach creativity requires us to completely disregard what the current education system looks like. An education system which is based off standardized testing and overburdened teachers is obviously never going to effectively teach creativity, because we have an education system which is based on making people the same. The problem there is not that creativity can't be taught, it's that, as Jane says, creativity is a threat. And that means there is zero incentive to have a national system which prioritizes teaching it. At the end of the day, as much as I think I'm special, I know I am lucky that a series of unfortunate events allowed me to be someone who gets to call themselves a creative. I just think everyone has that opportunity, and that's why it can be taught. Thank you.
Ife, give him a round of applause.
Bravo.
To Ife for that fantastic summary speech. Wow, what a debate we have had today. This has been one of my favorite debates that we have had so far in lockdown. A fantastic discussion there. You should see a relaunching of the poll where you can vote there, and you'll be able to pick now whether you agree or disagree with the motion, or if you're still undecided. I don't know where I sit now. I think what we did get to in that debate, which is a really interesting clarification, is that it's a bit of both. And that's the case with all of these debates that we do, is that yes, creativity is something that is natural and inherent, and some people have more of that spark than others. But at the same time, there are a series of very deliberate interventions that you can make in order to help that person unleash that spark. And that is the fine line that we're treading on in this debate. And there are initiatives like DebateMate, like Create Not Hate, like so many things that, like Jane as a teacher, that are helping people to develop their creativity in their own way. So thank you very much to all of our speakers today. We've just had to lose Cephas there because he's jumped off on another call. But thank you so much to all of our speakers. Give them a big round of applause again, wherever you are. Thank you, all of you, for joining us today on today's debate. I know some people that might have to go, but if they don't, I would like to say, if anyone wants to say something now the debate is over, they are welcome to. Cephas has put a very nice message in the chat there saying, sorry, he's had to leave. Minhao, Cephas says, you were brilliant. I loved how you broke down subjects and defined creativity. This was amazing. You're a great speaker and I look forward to seeing your journey grow and manifest. He says, Ife, you are brilliant also. A lot about Ratatouille. Who knew Ratatouille would be such a theme in this debate? Melody, big up yourself. Catch you soon. Trevor, large up. Nut, Jane, nice roundup. DebateMate Rania, thanks for inviting me. Thanks, Cephas, for tuning in. I wondered if anyone else would like to comment now the debate is over. I don't know. I know Melody and Trevor, we put you on those sides, and obviously you're aware of both. I wonder, Melody, if you'd like to say anything.
I feel like I need to say something because I'm just scared I might get hate mail. Because I saw some of the questions. I don't actually believe that it is a clearly demarcated thing. And I thought Ife schooled me, Manal schooled me. To be honest, I've learned so much just from the debate itself that it clearly there is no, but I chose a position I didn't 100% agree with. I don't think there is any hard There is no hard or right or wrong answer on this. But I definitely agree. Somebody wrote, I think someone wrote in the question, I think it might have been John Dale, about the elitism thing. And I absolutely fundamentally am opposed to that. So that's the reason why I did just want to make it plain that I was pushing something that I don't 100% believe. It's super complicated. And I think the really good point about resources and opportunity is what really defines it. And I did a quick poll amongst the creative people that I work with, and it was a universal, yes, it can be taught. And that education fundamentally unlearns that innate skill. And I agree with that.
Thank you very much, Mehdi. And yeah.
All right, I have to go as well.
Thank you very much, Mehdi, for your time. Amazing.
No, thank you. It was absolutely fantastic. Thank you,
Melanie. And I
thank you. I suddenly felt quite...
I knew no way did you believe creativity could be taught.
Joe and Ronke said to me that I need to take a position, and I decided to push myself. But thank you so much for the opportunity. It's just been Ife. Wow. Like, I need your details, mate. Please. Thanks, everyone. I've got to go.
Melody.
Thanks,
it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Please invite me to come back. And up Sydenham girls.
Yeah.
Forever. I hope there's some people on there. Bye. God bless everyone. Bye.
Bye, Melody.
Bye. Bye, Trev.
Bye, sweetie.
Bye, Minhal. You're wonderful.
She is amazing.
You're amazing. In fact, your mum sitting next to you. She must be so proud of you.
Yeah. I'm so proud of her.
Bye.
Bye.
Minhal, is there anything that you want to say at the end of this debate?
No. No.
Well, well done. Thank you so much for joining. You are fantastic. Everyone at DebateMate is very, very proud of you. And you've just debated with all of these industry experts on a topic that's really complicated, and you really held your own. So well done. You've represented DebateMate and Elmhurst School so well. So give another big round of applause for Minhal. She's only in year 6. Only in year 6. That means, well, how old are you, Minhal? 10 or 11?
I just turned 11.
Just
2 days
turned
ago.
11. Wow, what a future you've got ahead of you. Trevor, I wonder if you've got any reflections on the end of the debate.
So,
Trevor, do you have anything you would like to say at the end?
Oh, no, not really. I mean, it's obvious that there's a real talent even to get your point over. I think a lot of people here a lot better than me at expressing myself, but I would definitely say that creativity can be taught, and it's innate in all of us. And it's just drummed out of us, and we're made to feel that we're inadequate and not able to be creators. I think all of us are. And if we're going to have a bright future, people need to embrace that side to it.
Absolutely. Well said. And that's another testament to the work that Create Not Hate is doing, and the work that we at DebateMate are trying to do to empower young people with the confidence and self-belief, and then the skills to believe that they are creative and can contribute creatively. Ife, I know you've got something you'd like to say, and I know we were umming and ahhing about different topics, different sides that you were going to go on. You did a pretty good job there on the opposition, and actually, if you look at the results, you can see that opposition have won that debate, which means Trevor, Ife, and Minhal, you won today's debate, and the audience still believe that you can teach creativity. So well done. Ife, is there anything you'd like to say?
No, I think it's an interesting one. I think what it means to teach is the heart of the debate. I think more than anything, it's about the identities people put on themselves. Like I was saying before, by the time people get to like 13, they've got set identities of what type of person they think they are. It's like there are people that know I'm a maths person, and that means I'm in numbers and I'm logical and I'm not really like this. And people build entire personalities around what they've been told to do, and that at that point it becomes very hard. So I guess the thing I'd add is you definitely can teach creativity, but I also think that's a process which starts very early, and that's way in that primary school, in that even under 8, there is so much you need to do. And one thing you'll really see when looking at this talk about resources is that one real difference you see in the loads of young people I work with is what access they had to certain things at a very young age. Because that's the period where it's the same with languages. Like if you look, when you're very young, that's when it's much easier to learn languages, because it's something at that young age when you're building who you are as a person, when your brain is forming, that is so vital to teaching. And I think one of the things we need to work on is how we teach creativity and how we look at creativity for our youngest students.
Well said. Well said. If absolutely, I agree with you there. And thank you everyone for your contributions to today's debate. Thank you to the chat. We had almost 70 people tuning in throughout that whole thing, watching, which is really excellent numbers on a Friday lunchtime. In lockdown, we will put together some highlights videos to share with people, and there'll be this version of the debate will be available for other people to see. Everyone go and have a lovely Friday afternoon and a great weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in. There'll be a follow-up email for everyone that tuned in with some more information about Debate Mate and some more information about Create Not Hate. Please do get in touch if there's anything that you would like to talk about. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our speakers. Stay safe and see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.